My name is Jared Emry, and I joined the Orthodox Church 5 years or so. I've known about Orthodoxy most of my life. My parents were good friends with Russian Orthodox people, and so I got to see the Russian liturgy when I was growing up, and it impacted me definitely. I remember how beautiful it was and also how confusing it was because I didn't understand Russian. From there, I spent a few years, my middle school years in Ethiopia, where I actually got to live in a Orthodox country and see the difference of what it's like to live in a place that is actually still enchanted in a way the West isn't, where we no longer see the supernatural world anymore. We ignore it entirely. You know, we are a materialist and spiritualist, non-spiritualist a country. So coming back from Ethiopia to America was very difficult for me. It was a great culture shock because, honestly, we are culturally bland. With that culture shock was a long time struggle for me, as my Baptist church removed everything that I found beautiful in the Baptist church and became very contemporary, as they'd call it. And with that, I started leaving the church, started studying comparative religion, especially Buddhism and Hermeticism, for some time. Probably the only thing that kept me anything near Christian. I would have considered myself an atheist at the time, but I could not completely accept the atheist presupposition in that it was inconsistent with my moral beliefs. I could never make a godless world and morality fit together. And so I wrote a few papers of that in college. And then there was a hard time in my life, pretty much, where, you know, I had this girlfriend, and I was also working on this business project with a friend, and I found out that he knows her and ends up knowing her way too well. So in a dream, I find out that she's pregnant. And turns out, you know, there's something there. So I backed off and was at that time looking to try to find out what in the world is actually true at this point. So during this time, I had a dream where I was running through this country, this geography, and there would come to a point where I'd come up to a cliff, and I'd jump off it onto the top of like one of those like tower temples that are Oriental, and I would just run down it and out the door, back in the geography, back to the cliff. And after doing so several times, at the bottom of the temple as I was running, I was stopped by this monk character who told me to pay attention to the Buddha. So in the dream, I walked over to this golden Buddha thing and then woke up. And a little bit later, that week I think, I was heavily drinking. There were people with these telescopes, so I got to see the planet Jupiter with its moon circling it. But that night, I was just like, I need to know truth. I need it. So next morning, I wake up, I'm incredibly hungover, and suddenly it occurs to me, 3 equals 1. And that's not mathematical, but it's like the monad and the triad together. And so that's the Trinity. I understood something of that was like the one thing in the world that I had ever known to be true. So at that time, I determined the next day I was going to go to the Orthodox Church. So I did, and it was Palm Sunday, so that week was Holy Week. But after that first visit here to this parish and telling Father James that I wanted to become Orthodox at that point, that night I had a dream where I woke up and was blind. So I made my way to the bathroom of the house, not being able to see anything, splashed water in my eyes, and scales fell off. And that there was like a final confirmation that this was it, that I was finally able to, you know, actually start a journey actually towards knowing truth. And that's basically the story in a nutshell. From there, it's just learning things and that one piece of making sense, making the rest of the world making sense into a completely new worldview that I didn't have before.
What would you say is you mentioned before that you said that you went to the Orthodox Church that next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Why the Orthodox Church as opposed to literally any other church?
You know, I don't know. Several years prior, when I was a senior in high school, I actually visited the Vatican. And at that time, I thought, well, this is what I've been looking for, and I wanted to join the Roman Catholic Church. I never did, though. And I don't think I ever would. And not to say anything against them, really, but you know, it was at that moment when I recognized the Trinity that I realized to go to the Orthodox Church. The two were connected. I can't explain it, but that's how it is.
Why not Roman Catholicism?
Well, looking back on it now, I'd say it would probably have to do with the filioque, and that there's something incorrect there, because it creates a dyad between the monad and the triad, where you can have all the attributes are either shared or to a single person. But if you have a dyad, that sets the whole thing off kilter pretty much and can lead to all sorts of things.
What would you say is the biggest thing that changed in your heart and in your life between before being Orthodox and now?
I think a lot changed. I think I was pretty unhealthy beforehand, and during the chaos of joining the Orthodox Church and during that whole time, mentally, I became a healthy person. I was at the edge of functionality, and then I became functional. I think very antisocial and asocial, and I actually, for the first time, started actually caring about other people and, how my actions impact others.
What would you say to someone who is considering becoming Orthodox, but they're still not really sure?
What I would say is that come to the liturgy and, just try to listen. Don't try to follow along in service books, but just try to be present during the liturgy and see if you meet Christ here. And if you meet Christ here, well, you should stay.